A gray wolf cub, no more than 6 months old, stood on the wooden porch. Its silver-gray fur was matted with snow and ice, but it was the animal's eyes that struck Marcus most profoundly. Wide, intelligent, and filled with something that looked unmistakably like desperation. The cub immediately began making sounds, not aggressive growls, but urgent vocalizations that seemed to form a pattern, almost like it was trying to communicate in a language Marcus couldn't quite understand. It was crying, whining, making guttural sounds from deep in its throat, then high-pitched yelps. The cub pawed frantically at Marcus's boots, its small claws scraping against the leather, then turned and took several steps away, looking back with those piercing amber eyes. What would you do in this moment? Every protocol, every training manual says maintain distance from wildlife, but sometimes, the heart recognizes a truth that the mind hasn't yet processed. "Hey there, little one," Marcus whispered, his training warring with his instinct. "What's wrong?" The cub responded by crying out again, a sound so human-like in its emotion that it sent shivers through Marcus's body. It ran a few more steps, stopped, looked back. When Marcus didn't immediately follow, the cub ran back to him, jumped up against his legs, and continued making those desperate sounds with its mouth. A combination of whimpers, sharp barks, and what could only be described as pleading. The message couldn't have been clearer. "Follow me, now." Marcus grabbed his emergency pack, notified dispatch of his location, and made a decision that would change everything. He followed the gray wolf cub into the wilderness. The journey that followed was unlike anything in Marcus's 12 years as a ranger. The cub moved with purpose, constantly checking to ensure Marcus was following. Every few minutes, it would stop and cry out, as if saying, "Hurry, please hurry." The small creature was relentless, driven by something far more powerful than fear or instinct. They traveled through deep snow, the cub's smaller body creating a trail that Marcus could follow more easily. 20 minutes passed, then 40. The temperature was dropping, and Marcus began to question his decision. Had he just followed a wild animal 2 miles into the back country, based on pure instinct? But the cub's urgency never wavered. It climbed over fallen logs, navigated around frozen streams, always maintaining that same desperate pace. Marcus's radio crackled with dispatch asking for updates, but he could barely hear them over the pounding of his own heart and the cub's continuous vocalizations. Then suddenly, the cub stopped at the edge of a steep ravine. The small gray wolf stood at the precipice, howling now, a sound that echoed across the frozen landscape. Other howls answered from somewhere deeper in the forest. The hair on Marcus's neck stood up. The cub's pack was nearby. "Okay, buddy," Marcus said carefully, approaching the edge. "What am I supposed to?" His words died in his throat. 20 feet below, wedged in a narrow crevice between ice-covered rocks, was another ranger. Her green uniform was unmistakable even from this distance. She wasn't moving. Can you imagine the shock of that moment? Following an animal into the wilderness, not knowing what to expect, and finding a human life hanging in the balance. "Rachel," Marcus shouted, recognizing Ranger Rachel Morrison, a 20-year veteran who specialized in wolf behavior and conservation. "Rachel, can you hear me?" A weak hand rose slightly. She was alive. Marcus immediately radioed for emergency rescue, giving coordinates while assessing the situation. Rachel had fallen into a hidden crevice, probably while tracking the wolf pack she'd been studying for years. Her leg was clearly broken, twisted at an unnatural angle, and she'd been down there for hours in sub-freezing temperatures. But here's where the story becomes truly extraordinary. As Marcus prepared his climbing gear to descend, he noticed them. 4 adult gray wolves emerged from the tree line, maintaining a respectful distance, but watching intently. They didn't approach, they didn't threaten, they simply watched, and in their eyes, Marcus saw something that defied everything he thought he knew about wild animals. The cub ran to the adults, touching noses with what was clearly its mother, then returned to the edge of the ravine, looking down at Rachel, then back at Marcus. These wolves had sent their youngest, the only one who could approach humans without triggering immediate fear or aggression, to get help for the woman who had spent years protecting them. Marcus rappelled down carefully, his emergency medical training kicking in. Rachel was hypothermic, fading in and out of consciousness, but alive. As he secured her for extraction, she whispered something that made everything clear. "The wolves, I've been protecting them from poachers for 5 years, they remember." Tears froze on Marcus's cheeks. This wasn't just coincidence. This was recognition, trust, a bond formed through years of Rachel quietly ensuring this pack's survival, removing illegal traps, redirecting hunters, documenting their movements to create protected corridors. The rescue helicopter arrived 40 minutes later. As the medical team stabilized Rachel and prepared her for transport, something magical happened. The gray wolf cub approached one final time, close enough that Marcus could see its breath in the cold air. It made a soft sound, not a cry this time, but something gentler, almost like a goodbye or a thank you. The adult wolves howled from the forest edge, a sound that seemed to carry across the entire valley. Rachel survived. Her leg required surgery, but she made a full recovery. When she returned to Yellowstone 3 months later, the first thing she did was hike back to that ravine. And there, waiting in the distance, was the gray wolf pack, including one young cub who had grown considerably, but whose amber eyes still held that same intelligence, that same recognition. The story spread through the Park Service, then to wildlife researchers worldwide. It challenged assumptions about animal cognition, about the boundaries between species, about the invisible threads that connect all living things, when we choose respect over dominance. Scientists who studied Rachel's research notes discovered something fascinating. She had documented dozens of instances of this specific pack, showing advanced problem-solving, cooperative hunting strategies, and even what appeared to be teaching behaviors toward their young. Her years of non-invasive observation had revealed a family unit with bonds as strong as any human family. When one of their own was in danger, they didn't just abandon her to nature's harsh laws. They sought help from the one species that had shown them kindness. Think about this for a moment. That gray wolf cub traveled over 2 miles through dangerous terrain, found the ranger station, understood that humans inside could help, and persistently communicated an emergency across the species barrier. The level of cognitive function, memory, and emotional intelligence required for this is staggering. What does this say about the minds of the creatures we share this planet with? Marcus Chen still works at Yellowstone. He keeps a photograph on his desk, taken by a trail camera, showing the gray wolf cub sitting outside his station on that December morning. He looks at it every day, and remembers the lesson that small creature taught him. Trust is not bound by species. Intelligence exists in forms we're only beginning to understand, and sometimes, the most profound connections happen when we choose to listen to what the wild is trying to tell us. Rachel Morrison continues her wolf research, now with a scar on her leg, and a story that has inspired a new generation of wildlife conservationists. The gray wolf pack still roams the northern territories of Yellowstone, thriving under continued protection. And somewhere in those ancient forests, a young gray wolf carries the memory of the day it saved a human life, proof that compassion, loyalty, and courage transcend the boundaries we draw between ourselves and the natural world. The wilderness holds infinite wisdom. Sometimes, it just takes a crying wolf cub to help us hear it. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to remember that we're all connected in ways we're only beginning to understand. And tell us in the comments, have you ever experienced that impossible moment of connection with a wild animal? Subscribe to hear more stories that challenge everything we think we know about the creatures we share this world with.